Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to Prabhupada book reading session. We'll chant the Mangalacharya prayers. Om Jnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuralmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaidam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shanyavadi Pashatya Deshapadine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurkashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhavinda Kameshwari Vishamanu Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's continue our reading for Prabhupada book. We are at the introduction. We're discussing about the early life of Srila Prabhupada, his meeting with his spiritual master. In 1935, on the occasion of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's 62nd birthday, Abhay submitted a poem and an essay at a meeting of his godbrothers in Bombay. The writings were well received and were consequently published in the Gaudiya Math magazine, The Harmonist. One of his godbrothers informally dubbed Abhay as Kavi, learned poet. For Abhay, however, the glory of his first published writing came when the poem reached Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and gave him pleasure. One stanza specifically made Srila Bhaktisiddhanta so happy that he made a point of showing it to all of his guests. Absolute ascension, thou hast proved, impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. Somehow, in this simple couplet, Abhay had captured the essence of his spiritual master's preaching against impersonalist philosophies. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it as an indication of how well Abhay knew the mind of his Gurudev. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta also found Abhay's essay pleasing, and he showed it to some of his confidential devotees. Whatever he writes, he instructed the editor of the Harmonist publish it. Next paragraph. One of Abhay's most significant meetings with his spiritual master took place in Vrindavan in 1935. Abhay was no longer a newcomer, but a bona fide disciple, doing his best within the context of a householder's life. One day, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was walking by the sacred lake of Radha Kund with Abhay and several other disciples, he began speaking confidentially to Abhay. Some of his leading disciples had been quarreling, he said, and this distressed him very much. The disciples had been fighting over who would use various rooms and facilities at the Gaudiya Mutt headquarters in Calcutta. If they were quarreling even now, what would they do after the spiritual master passed away? Abhay had no part in these matters and did not even know the details of what was involved. But as he listened to his spiritual master, he also became distressed. Hmm. Next paragraph. Achit, Priya, Kishore. Yes, you can unmute now.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Deeply concerned, Srila Bhakti Siddhant said to Abhay, there will be fire. One day there would be fire in the Calcutta Gaudiya Mutt, and that fire of party interest would spread and destroy. Abhay heard but did not know what to make of it. It would be better, said Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati, to take the marble from the walls of the sorry, temple to secure money. If I could do this and print books, that would be better. Srila Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati then said directly to Abhay, I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books. Standing by Radha Kund and beholding his spiritual master, Abhay felt these words deeply enter his life. If you ever get money, print books. Srila
Thank you.
Bhakti Siddhant. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna.
So here on the bank of Radha Kund, Srila Prabhupada got this order from his spiritual master. If you ever get money, print books. And Srila Prabhupada took this order to his heart, so much so to his heart that he always dreamt of getting money and using that money to print books. Srila Prabhupada remained a good householder or a grihastha, not just because he felt that he had obligation towards his family members, but also because he felt that as a grihastha he can earn money and support the mission of his spiritual master. Or because his spiritual master wanted him to go to West. If he would not be a grihastha, how would he make the money to go to West? Or how would he print the books? So he was very dedicated to the mission of Bhakti Siddhanta right from day one. Now, regarding this mood of Prabhupada, I want to tell you a story. Maybe I have shared this story before also. That he got this instruction of Bhakti Siddhanta when he was a Grihastha. He did not think it's not a practical instruction that my spiritual master is giving me. How will I do what he's asking me to do? Rather, he was like, okay, if this is the instruction, to fulfill that instruction, what can I do now? And what I can do is earn money. That I can do. Later on, there were days when Prabhupada was living as a Vanaprasthi. So once it happened that Srila Prabhupada was residing in Vrindavan as a Vanaprasthi. And he would come to Delhi to print BTG magazines or print some books. He had one known printer, Mr. Jain, at Chippiwala Chandni Chowk, and he would come and meet him and get things printed. So he was living in Vrindavan. Vrindavan in those days was not the way it is today. Now you have very rich people living in Vrindavan. But in those days, Vrindavan was poor. In fact, if Vrindavan is rich today, it's because of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada brought the whole world to Vrindavan. So if Vrindavan is rich, opulent, or whatever, it's because of Prabhupada. So Vrindavan was not like that those days. So for any monetary purposes, he had to come to Delhi. He happened to meet a judge, a high court judge, who used to live in Delhi. And that man promised Prabhupada that he would give 10 rupees every month to him as a donation. But Prabhupada would have to come to him to collect those 10 rupees. So what Prabhupada did is every month, some morning he would take a train from Mathura to Delhi, come to that High Court's judge's house, meet him, collect 10 rupees, and then go back to Vrindavan the same day. Mhm. That's what he had to do every month. Now, this had not been going on for a long time. Maybe one or two times only he could meet that person and get the money. For the next time when he came, he was standing in front of the gate of that man's house. Now, that man had a bungalow. So there was a big security gate, you know, and he would just stand in front of that gate to meet that man. So that day, during the hot sun, he was standing in front of the gate, and the security person said, Boss is out. He's not here. The sir is not here. So Prabhupada said, any idea when he's going to come back? He said, no idea. He may come at evening. He may come in the night. I don't know. He's gone out. So Prabhupada said, okay, I'll wait till the time he comes back. Because if I go back, then I'll not get my 10 rupees. Right? So I should wait because I need my 10 rupees. So he started waiting. It's hot sun. He was standing on the roadside waiting for that man to come. Now, at that time, very close to that house, there was a Gaudiya Math, and it was being managed by one of the god brothers of Srila Prabhupada, who was a sannyasi. So this sannyasi Maharaj was going for some task from his mutt to the market. He was riding a bicycle. While he was crossing that road, he happened to see Prabhupada. I said, Are Abhay Babu? He is Abhay Babu. He is my god brother. What is he doing here, standing on the roadside in the hot sun? You know. But he didn't bother to ask Prabhupada. He just saw him. Okay, he must be having some business. And he left. After 3 hours, when he was returning back by the same road, riding his bicycle, he saw Prabhupada is still standing. So he felt some pity. So- And then he saw, because Prabhupada was in Vanaprastha ashram, he saw his clothes are very dirty, soiled. Like when you have this white dhoti kurta and if you wear it for long, long, long time, then it becomes so soiled. It becomes brownish in color, right? So it's a very thin kurta is there, almost getting torn. Very thin dhoti is there, and he was like, come on, what is going on in his life? He seems to be going through a very bad time. So he came to Prabhupada and said, Abhay Babu, what are you doing here? I mean, in the hot sun for 3 hours you are standing. So he said, I am waiting for this High Court judge to come. He promised me 10 rupees. Every month he will give. So I'm waiting to collect those 10 rupees. So that sannyasi Maharaj, he felt so sad. He said, don't torture yourself for such a small amount, 10 rupees. I'll give you 10 rupees every month. You don't come to this man. You know. I'll give you 10 rupees and don't worry, I'll send 10 rupees to Vrindavan. You don't have to come all the way to Delhi to collect 10 rupees. So don't torture yourself like this. And then looking at Prabhupada's condition that Prabhupada had possibly not eaten for days, he took 5 rupees extra and he put it in his pocket. That Abhay Babu, take good care of yourself, wear proper clothes, eat nicely. Otherwise, you'll become very sick. And he left. Prabhupada got 15 rupees. Hmm. Now, if you have not eaten for days and you suddenly get 15 rupees, what will be your first thing? You'll eat. If you don't have proper clothes and you got 15 rupees, the first thing will be, let me buy clothes. Right? Or if you are tired standing for 3 hours in the hot sun, the first thing would be, let me go back to Vrindavan. Prabhupada immediately went to the printer. And you know what it is say? 15 rupees I got. Print for everything. So that printer said, Abhay Babu, did you keep something for yourself to eat? Because the printer very well knows this man's nature. And did you keep something to? No, I'm okay. So then he ordered for something and then gave Prabhupada to eat. Now you see, this is called commitment to Guru's instructions. Guru's instruction was, if you ever get money, print books. So whenever he got money, he printed books, even if it was 10 rupees or 15 rupees. Whether he had food to eat or not, doesn't matter. Guru said, you get money, you print books. He got money, he wanted to print books. Right. So that is so, I mean, special about Srila Prabhupada. I think this is what makes him such a great Vaishnava, such a great Acharya, such a great teacher, such a great personality, so pure, so selfless. Right? Next paragraph. Shamala Mataji.
Srila Bhakti Siddhanta departed from the mortal world in December 1936. 1 month before his departure, Abhay wrote him a letter. He was thinking that as a Grihastha, he could not fully serve his spiritual master, and he wanted to know what more he could do. Thus, he inquired, is there any particular service I can do? 2 weeks later, Abhay received a reply. I am fully confident that you can explain in English our thoughts and arguments to the people who are not conversant conversant with as
The
conversant
languages.
with the languages Bengali and Hindi. This will do much to good to yourself as well as your audience. I have every hope that you can turn yourself into a very good English preacher. English preacher.
Thank you. Thank you. Mandakini Guru.
Hare Krishna. Abhay at once recognized that to be the same instruction he had received at his first meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922. He took it as a confirmation. He now had no doubts as to the purpose of his life. The fire in the Madhya, Srila Bhaktisiddhantas had predicted broke out almost immediately. Some senior disciples quarreled about succession of leadership in the Madhyas, and matters soon degraded into legal disputes over temple proprietorship. As a Grihastha businessman, Abhay had taken little part in the Gaudiya Math activities, and now that was in his favor. He was at a distance from the fray, but lamented that his spiritual master's order for his disciples to work cooperatively was being disregarded, and his united institution of temples and printing presses was collapsing.
Thank you. Thank you. Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Another much greater dispute soon erupted, World War II. By the tactic known as the denial policy, the British sank many Indian boats carrying food and destroyed much of East India's rice crop, fearing that the food would fall into the hands of the enemy. This left Indians starving and without the boats they needed for trade. The famine that ensued was the worst to hit. Uh, hit Bengal in 150 years. Abhay had managed to purchase just enough for his family to survive, but month after month he saw the footpaths and open spaces congested with beggars, cooking their food on impoverished stoves and sleeping in the open or beneath trees. He saw starving children rummaging in the dustbins for a morsel of food. From there, it was but a step to fighting with the dogs for a share of the garbage, and this also became familiar sight in the Calcutta streets.
Thank you, Mubashir. Vijay Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Abhay comprehended the sufferings of famine through the teachings he had heard from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. By God's arrangement, the earth could produce enough food. The trouble was man's greed and mismanagement. There is no scarcity in the world. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had said, the only scarcity is of Krishna consciousness. Now, more than ever, this spiritual vision seemed relevant, and Abhay grew anxious for a way to supply what he knew to be the remedy of all ills. Convinced that he had an urgent message for the war-weary citizens of the world, he considered starting a publication that would present the world's crisis through the eyes of the scripture in the same bold style as had his spiritual master. There was no shortage of ideas, and he had been saving money for his business for this very purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Vishaka Mataji.
From the front room of his apartment in Calcutta, Abhay conceived, wrote, edited, and typed the manuscript for a magazine. He gave it the name Back to Godhead. Edited and founded under the direct order of His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by Mr. Abhay Charan De. Repeatedly, however, he had to plead with government officials for permission to use paper to print his journal. Although he was only one voice out of billions, with no backing or money or following, he was confident in his Guru and in Lord Krishna. He had the conviction of his important message. Therefore, even during the war, in between explosions and deaths, he released his first issue, because there is a great need of a literature like this.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada was highly convinced that the world needs the message of Krishna consciousness. And therefore he could preach even at such odd times. That conviction is not human inspiration. That conviction is divine inspiration. That when everything is going bad, he could see that only solution is Krishna consciousness. And he was bent upon doing it. Such determination is only possible when it is Krishna inspired or bhakti inspired, not mundane. Think about it once. How many people fought for the independence of India? Thousands. They had one common cause. Looking at the sacrifice of the other fighter man, they got the inspiration, I should also fight. There was Netaji Bose, there was Bhagat Singh in the past, and so many freedom fighters. We call them freedom fighters. But if you look at Prabhupada, he was fighting his fight all alone. There was no one else to support him. No God brother, no other Vaishnava, no one. And fighting at what age? Gandhiji was fighting at the age of 30s, 40s. Prabhupada fighting at the age of 70. Right? So from where such inspiration is coming? Only if it is divinely inspired, then is it possible. Otherwise, you will so easily give up. Like, come on, I don't want to do it. You'll just give up, right? But he did not give up. He did not. He did.
Large
I share
national
the
wealth.
screen.
Yeah.
Large.
Large national events continued to play across the worldly stage throughout the 1940s in India. In 1947, India gained a long sought independence from Britain, but the national happiness was soon followed by horror as hundreds of thousands died in the fighting that followed the partition of the nation into India and Pakistan. As Prabhupada would later recall, we have seen in 1947 Hindu Muslim fighting. One party was Hindu, the other party was Muslim. They fought and so many died, and after death there was no distinction who was Hindu or who was Muslim. The municipal men gathered the bodies together in piles to throw them somewhere. Abhay was not hopeful about promises for peace, nor did he consider Indian independence the solution. Unless the leaders were God conscious, what change would there be? In Back to Godhead, in his article Gandhi Jinnah Talks, he wrote, fighting will go on between Hindu and Mohammedan, between Christians and Christians, between Buddhist and Buddhist, till the day of annihilation. His point, as long as people are possessed of selfish interest and desires for sense gratification, they'll continue fighting. Real unity was possible only on the platform of spiritual understanding and service to the Supreme.
Thank you. So here Prabhupada is making a very important point that misunderstandings will always exist as long as people remain interested in their own personal sense gratification. Only when they come to the platform of uniting together for sense gratification, no, uniting together for serving the Supreme Lord, then there will be no fight. Then there will be peace. Otherwise, wars will come and go. You know something? Just like individuals have karma, nations also have karma. So just like in an individual's life, there are good days and bad days. Similarly, in a nation's life also, there are good days and bad days. And just like an individual cannot avoid sinful reaction, a nation can also not avoid sinful reaction. So such wars, even if we try our best to stop them, they will not stop. Because it is the karma of the nation coming to it. They can't avoid it. It's not possible. Right? So only thing is possible is people become Krishna conscious. Then some change is possible. Otherwise not. Next paragraph. Mega Gupta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Please read. Even when Abhay was unable.
Even when Abhay was unable to raise enough money to publish regular issue of Back to Godhead, he continued writing. His most ambitious project was a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, but he also preached Lord Chaitanya's message through letters. He wrote to many leaders in government, to respectable acquaintances, and to people whose articles he had read or whose activities had caught his eyes in the newspaper. Presenting himself as a humble servant, he would explain his idea on how to apply India's original Krishna consciousness culture as the successful solution to all member of dilemmas. Sometimes his letters drew replies from government office and secretaries, but largely they were ignored. May I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes. Yes, Mataji, continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. That Abhay would think of engaging Mohandas Gandhi in devotional service was inevitable because of his lifetime of courageous ascetic and moral activities on behalf of his countrymen. Gandhi had a great power to influence the
One minute. Shrishti, continue.
Prabhuji, I will continue from that Abhay would think.
Yeah.
That Abhay would think of engaging Mohandas Gandhi in devotional service was inevitable because of his lifetime of courageous, ascetic, and moral activities on behalf of his countrymen. Gandhi had great power to influence the Indian masses. Besides, Abhay had a special feeling for him, having been a follower of his as a young man. On December 7, 1947, Abhay wrote a long letter to Gandhi in New Delhi. He was aware that Gandhi was at odds with many of his former followers who had taken leadership of the nation and were neglecting his doctrines of Hindu-Muslim unity and agrarianism. Hindus and Muslims alike were critical of him. At 78 years, he was physically weak and melancholy. Abhay knew that his letter would probably never reach Gandhi, but he sent it nonetheless. Addressing himself as Gandhi's unknown friend, he wrote, "I tell you as a sincere friend that you must immediately retire from active politics if you do not desire to die an inglorious death." Although warmly acknowledging Gandhi's honor and prestige, he said that it would all amount to illusion unless Gandhi retired from politics and engaged in understanding and preaching Bhagavad Gita. Especially now that Gandhi was at the end of his life, Abhay warned he should quit the political field and approach the absolute truth. At least for a month, Abhay requested. Gandhi should retire and engage with him in discussing Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. Gaurav.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandat Pranam. Abhay never received a reply to his letter, and 1 month later, on January 30, Gandhi met his death. Abhay's letter of the previous month suddenly read like a prophecy. While Abhay's involvement in writing and preaching intensified, his business and family affairs dwindled. He felt that a particular verse spoken by Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam applied to him. When I feel specially merciful towards someone, I gradually take away all of his material possessions. His friends and relatives then reject the poverty-stricken and most wretched fellow, leaving him only Krishna. When Abhay's business in Allahabad went deeply into debt, he tried to open a factory in Lucknow. At first it appeared profitable, but eventually it also lost money and had to be closed.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So that letter of Srila Prabhupada to Mr. Gandhi is very historical. If you get a chance, you should read that letter. And you'll understand that Prabhupada was so bold and he was so straightforward. I mean, it requires guts to write in such a way to someone like Gandhi, but he was ever ready to preach Krishna consciousness to anyone.
Prabhu, can we read that letter somewhere?
Yeah, that letter is there. I can share in the group WhatsApp group. You can read it.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So once it happened that Prabhupada was still a Grihastha and he was in Kolkata, Calcutta. And his godbrother, His Holiness Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, had just arrived from Mayapur. They were good friends, but they had opposite nature. In the sense, Prabhupada was more outgoing, missionary, revolutionary, aggressive in terms of preaching. And Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was mild, more of an introvert. Like, let's first practice Krishna consciousness and become pure devotees and do bhajan, then to share Krishna consciousness. But he appreciated Prabhupada's mood to preach. He was telling that I just reached Kolkata and Abhay comes running to me and he's bringing the message. You know what? Gandhi is in town. So Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj said, so what? So let's go and meet him. We'll preach him Krishna consciousness. So Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj said that he was always jumping at the opportunity okay, this man is here, let him please Krishna consciousness. That man is here, let him please Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada was like that, always jumping at that opportunity. Yes, next paragraph, Sneha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandapranam. While continuing to maintain his wife and children in an apartment in Calcutta, Abhay mostly lived away from them. He moved back to Allahabad, but he was putting less and less energy into selling pharmaceutical products. He was more interested in preaching. When a hospital customer in the city of Jhansi invited Abhay to lecture at the Gita Mandir, he gladly accepted. His lecture was well received by the Jhansi audience, which was made up largely of young medical students and professionals. Their appreciation, however, was mostly social and cultural. They were they were ac- accustomed to hearing from many speakers whom they invited to their lecture programs, and they never intended that Abhay tried to establish a permanent center in Jhansi, but Abhay was visionary and ambitious. Leaving his Allahabad affairs in the hand of his son, he tried to create a spiritual movement in Jhansi. Abhay was
Thank you,
56.
Mataji. Thank you. Next paragraph. Vaichu Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Abhay was 56 and he thought that he must now begin very seriously manifesting the orders of his spiritual master. As he told one of the men in Jhansi, the whole world is waiting, Mr. Mitra, for spiritual revolution. Since the spiritual master's institution, the Gaudiya Math, had become ineffectual due to fights and permanent factions, he attempted to start a movement of devotees with worldwide activities. Although he had only one or two active helpers, he obtained the use of an abandoned temple and began working toward what he envisioned as a kind of spiritual United Nations. He wrote a charter and legally registered his movement as the League of Devotees. But while absorbed in these affairs, one day Abhay received a telegram that his business in Allahabad had been burglarized. His servants had stolen his money, medicine, and anything else of value. On reading the news, he was silent, but then laughed and uttered the Bhagavatam verse. Krishna's mercy was to crush the material success of a sincere devotee. When one of Abhay's Jhansi friends advised him to return to Allahabad, he replied, "No, this is good for me. First, I was sad to see this, but I can see that one great attachment has come to an end, and my life is now fully surrendered and dedicated to Sri Sri Radha Krishna."
Thank you. On a visit to his family in Calcutta, Abhay made the final break from his family responsibilities. He still had a small business there, and he had gone to try and raise funds for his missionary work in Jhansi. But inevitably, he was plunged again into family responsibilities. Some of his children were still unmarried. Rent and bills had to be paid. Even if he were to develop his Calcutta medical shop, the family would demand whatever he earned. And even if he were to accede to his family's demands and live at home, the greatest difficulty would still remain. They weren't serious about devotional service. What was the use, he thought, if they wouldn't become devotees? His wife and relatives were not interested in his Jhansi preaching, but wanted him to spend more time in business and family affairs. His father in law complained, "Why are you always talking about God?" But when friends came to visit, Abhay continued preaching and speaking on Bhagavad Gita, just as he had done in Jhansi. And as before, his wife and the rest of the family would take tea in a separate room. Prabhupada would later recall, "I wanted as much as possible to get her to work with me in spreading Krishna consciousness, to get her help, but she was very determined." So finally, after 30 years, I could understand she would not be any assistance to me. See, Prabhupada was so determined. So if his commenting that his wife was determined, you can imagine how much more determined she would be to not cooperate with Prabhupada. Because if you read about Prabhupada's life, he had that nature to put fire in people to preach Krishna consciousness. And you see, he remained for 30 years with someone and still that person remained cold. That means that person was so much more determined to not support him or not change. And she was very determined. So Prabhupada decided, okay, she's of no assistance to me. Next paragraph, Neha Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Then one day, Abhay always advised his wife not to drink tea. It was not the practice of a strict Vaishnava family. Finally, he said, "You have to choose between me or tea. Either the tea goes or I go." Abhay's wife replied jokingly, "Well, I'll have to give up my husband then." Then one day she made a serious mistake. She traded her husband's copy of Srimad Bhagavatam for tea biscuits. When Abhay came home and looked for the sacred book, she told him what had happened. Abhay was shocked, and the incident pushed him to leave his family for good. In a mood of stark determination, he left his family and business. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Okay, now, you see, here Satsvarupa Maharaj, who is the author of this book, he has made it look very dramatic that the wife said, I choose tea, and therefore Srila Prabhupada left the house. But it's not so true that only that one statement made him decide that I'm going to leave the house and take sannyas. And because a devotee can never be so sporadic, or act impulsively that someone said something and then you just leave home. A devotee is very thoughtful. A devotee is very considerate. So regarding Prabhupada's taking sannyas, there is more elaborate description given in another book. Prabhupada was anyway considering to take sannyas, and he was getting lots of dreams of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, where Bhaktisiddhanta was telling him that it's now the time you should take sannyas. It's now the time you should take sannyas. So one night at around 1 a.m., Prabhupada ran upstairs and started banging on the door. The door was then opened by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Actually, Prabhupada used to live in a house, and his shop, or you can say the store front, was next to the house. And above that store front, there was a room which he would use to host the guests. So whenever Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj would travel from Mayapur to Kolkata, Prabhupada would give him that room to stay. He had to stay here, and you, for 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, you stay in Kolkata, you preach. I'll organize programs for you. That's what his attitude was. So whenever he would get such dreams at night, he would just go running up to the room, bang on the door, and then when Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj would open the door, Abhay Babu, it's 1 a.m., what's wrong? Said, give me sannyas. Guru Maharaj came to my dream, said, take sannyas. So you give me sannyas. So Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj would say, go down, take rest, we'll talk tomorrow. So this would happen many times, and then Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj then told Prabhupada, you see, the problem is, your whole family is very close to me. If I give you sannyas, they will think I'm the worst enemy. So it's not good to take sannyas from me. You should take sannyas from some other god brother of ours, not from me. So Prabhupada said, okay. So one day in that room, they were having this discussion whether Prabhupada should take sannyas or not. And in the discussion, who all were sitting? In the discussion, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was sitting. His one disciple, whose name is Govinda Brahmachari, at those days, he was sitting. Prabhupada's sister, Bhavatarini, she was sitting. Prabhupada's own son was sitting, and Prabhupada was sitting. And these five people were having discussion whether he should take sannyas or not. Right? So at that time, Srila Prabhupada put forth this concern that I want to take sannyas, but my kids are still not married. Who will get them married? So he looked at his sister, and then his sister said, you see, your material life is anyway waste. You could never do anything in material life. Every time you wanted to earn money, Krishna did not give you money, right? So your whole life has gone trying to do something good in material life, and you have not been a successful man. That you know, everyone knows. And then he said, now you have some years left in your life. Why don't you give this remaining years for doing what you really want to do, what is in your heart? At least give it a try. So at that time, then Prabhupada looked at her and said, but what about my kids? Who will take care of them? If they need some financial help, if they need some support, you know? Then that lady, Prabhupada's sister, Bhavatarini Mataji, she said, you take sannyas, I take their responsibility. I'll get them married, don't worry. Because she had three sons, she was a widow, and all three sons were earning well. So she said, I'll take their responsibility. So you see, please try to understand, when we read this statement, no, we must think that Prabhupada just whimsically left home. Let me take some names. It was not like that. No, he handed over the responsibility to someone. Now, okay, now I'll take it. Yes. Now I'll leave my responsibilities. So then it was decided, okay, then he will take some names. So it was a discussion, a mutual discussion and an agreement. And then Prabhupada left from there and went on. Right. So this is the detail. Okay, next paragraph. Varshana Lila Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. The 1950s proved very difficult years for Abhay. He returned to Jhansi, but he had to leave his building when the governor's wife insisted that it be used for a ladies' club instead of League of Devotees. Without a place to stay and with no real support, he left Jhansi, but not his plan to start a worldwide association of devotees. After moving to an ashram in Delhi and living for a while with some of his god brothers, he was on his own again, a mendicant, staying from week to week in various temples or in the homes of whatever wealthy, pious people would receive him. In terms of food, clothing, and shelter, these were the most difficult times he had ever gone through. Since his childhood, he had always had proper food and good clothes, and there had been no questions of where he would live. He had been the pet child of his father, and he had received special guidance and affection from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But during the 1950s, Abhay was alone.
He was alone. Next point. I am.
He spent his time writing and approaching donors to whom he preached Bhagavad Gita. His goal wasn't to find a permanent residence, but to print his transcendental literature and to establish a powerful movement for spreading Krishna consciousness. And for this, he needed money. So he was calling on wealthy men in their offices and homes, presenting his manuscripts and explaining his mission. But few responded. And when they did, the donation was usually only 5 to or 10 rupees. Eventually, however, he collected enough to again print back to Godhead. Lacking money to buy even proper clothes, Abhay went through the chilly Delhi winter without a jacket. He would regularly walk to the printers to read the latest proofs of Back to Godhead. When the printer asked him why he was intent on producing his newspaper under such hardships, he replied, "It is my mission." He managed to pay the printer small amounts at intervals. Should I continue?
Someone else. Lalita Prishta.
Hare Krishna, Dhanana Pranam Babuji. After picking up the copies from the printer, Abe would walk around the city selling them. He would take a seat at a tea stand, and when someone sat beside him, he would ask him to please take a copy of Back to Godhead. Through his articles and editorials, Abe criticized the materialistic and atheistic tendencies of modern civilization. He also drew on his personal experiences, responding to the resistance, polite and impolite, that he met while selling Back to Godhead. He wrote an article, No Time, a chronic disease of the common man. His writing was never strident or fanatical, despite his desperate poverty and the urgency of his message. He wrote, expecting to find his reader prepared to hear sound philosophy and willing to accept the truth, especially when presented logically, relevant, and authoritatively.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Namaste. In addition to selling Back to Godhead at tea stalls and delivering copies to donors, Abhay also mailed out free copies, both within India and abroad. For years, the vast audience of English-speaking readers outside India had concerned him, and he wanted to reach them. Having gathered addresses of libraries, universities, India, he mailed as many Back to Godheads as he could afford. He prepared a letter for his Western readers, suggesting that they should be even more receptive than his countrymen. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. All right, we'll stop here. Continue next class. Any questions or comments? So we stopped at page number 26. We'll continue from.
Yes, Hare Krishna Babu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Babu. I have a question. The katha you just said about the tea, Prabhupada dreams and the meeting with a 5 person. From which book you can read it?
The story of him waiting for 10 rupees, that one?
No, this is the story of the meeting. That Prabhupada should take sannyas on that in the discussion meeting.
That is given in the book. Our Srila Prabhupada, dear friend to all, by Mula Prakriti Devidas.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Mega Gupta Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, and Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, as we read in a verse that when we unite for sense gratification, then there is a possibility of fight. Prabhuji, like in a Gauriya Mata, as we read in this verse, there are so many sannyasi who are practicing bhakti, and of course they are in a good association also with Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Swami Maharaj. Even they were the tendency of fighting. So, Prabhuji, how should we try to cultivate the bhakti so that it works in our day-to-day life? जैसे यहाँ पे हम देखें कि वो
Understood your question. Thank you. So, when Prabhupada gives the solution that there has to be Krishna in the center, it is a solution which has to be applied every second, every moment. We are not at that level. So when we want to come to that level, we will fail also. Right? We have to know one thing. We are at a certain level of Krishna consciousness development. And what is being explained in the scriptures is the perfect level. And between that level and our level, there's a huge gap, right? So this is the reality, that we have a goal which is very high and our position is very low. Now, to reach from this low position to that high position is going to take good amount of practice, which is years and years and years of dedicated sadhana and practice, right? Now, at our level of development, we are just so new to Krishna consciousness. If we start thinking, how will I become that pure today itself? Or how will I become that pure tomorrow itself? Or how will I become that pure in 10 days? This is called what? What is this called?
Mental speculation.
Not mental speculation.
Impatience.
Okay, impatience. What else? Being unrealistic. Right? You are being unrealistic or you are being too idealistic. Isn't it? So what we should do is, we have to be only sincere. That's the only thing, which means you have to try your best. That sincerity cannot be purchased in the market. That sincerity cannot be obtained by listening to a class. That sincerity is your nature. Now, if you are sincere and you are working on that path, slowly, we will come to that level also that will not fight for petty things. Right? So let's be realistic in our approach to Krishna consciousness. Now, when Bhakti Siddhanta is talking about his god brothers, we should understand, even if they were sannyasis, or even if they were senior disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta, just because you are sannyasi, just because you are senior, just because you are practicing Krishna consciousness for 30, 40, 50 years, doesn't mean that you will become a pure devotee of Krishna. Right? Isn't it? So such things will happen. Now the lesson for us is, be sincere. That's all. Now, after being sincere, also, you may do mistakes. You may slip. You may get distracted. Accept it. Move on. Continue. Right? That's the thing. Not to become disheartened, not to become too, dreamy that everything will be proper in my path of Krishna consciousness. I'll always be going up and up and up and up and up and up. No. So let's approach in that way. So let us just be sincere. No problem. Then slowly we'll make progress. Till that time, we will also fight.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Done with me.
Prabhuji, can I also ask something?
Yeah.
It's related to that what you just said about that there is a we're not pure devotees, and also in the last week you said, not in Prabhupada but in Bhakti Shastri, but I can't wait to get an answer, so I'm asking now. You said that in our lives everything is not happening according to Krishna's will, but we should try to
Yeah.
But it just, I'm still thinking about this because it makes me fear somehow, like it makes me it gives me some insecurity that if everything is, of course everything is not happening in my life according to Krishna, so it's my karma, but still it gives a sense of fear because I want everything to happen according to Krishna. So I want my whole life that I don't want my decisions to influence my life, because otherwise it can be really dangerous. And I want only Krishna to decide. And it's somehow it made me very sad at the moment that yes, everything is not according to Krishna's will. And I don't know how to see it now.
So we should still see it as Krishna's will only. Rupa Goswami is not saying that you should not see that as Krishna's will. You should see it as your karma. But at the same time, we should know that Krishna will not personally orchestrate it for us. However, I should learn to see it as Krishna's mercy. Otherwise, we may start blaming Krishna if you are not properly fixed up in Krishna consciousness. Right? And there's no need to be insecure, because Krishna will interfere in our life to help us and protect us. A devotee should be convinced that even if our past karma is very bad, and that karma is bringing us to a horrible situation in life, because I am practicing Krishna consciousness, Krishna will give me the strength to sail through. That much faith and hope we must have.
Thank you so much.
Then no problem. There's no need to fear. Krishna will make me pass through this phase also. And Krishna will do that. He is Vaichanatha.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I just wanted to find out if it's possible to get the full poem that Prabhupada had written, about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati.
Yeah, full poem is also there. I'll
Where
share that also.
Thank you. Hare
I'll
Krishna.
share both in the group.
Thank you.
Letter to Gandhi and the prayer. Yes, Raj Shri Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam. Prabhuji, for a grahastha to take vanaprastha, is it like allowed, or are there any rules around it, or one can just like go ahead? How is it?
There are no such rules as such. I mean, if you are, one thing is, one condition is there, one premise is there, you are 50, then you take vanaprastha, right? The other is there, you are able to fulfill all your responsibilities, get your children married or settled. Then you take vanaprastha. So that is there. But otherwise, nothing else. One cannot just leave things. If one can make an arrangement for the kids to manage, take vanaprastha. Vanaprastha does not mean that you get totally disconnected from family life. It just means that you shed away the responsibility. You still are in touch with them, you guide them, you are available, but you don't take the headache for them. Now you are on your own. Earn yourself, eat yourself, live yourself. I'll be available on and off. That is vanaprastha life. Right? So that is very good. That's vanaprastha. Yes, next. Shamala.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. One thought is running in my mind, like Prabhupada's one moment changed many of them. How come wife not become devotee?
Many reasons for that. First reason is familiarity builds contempt. Okay. When you become too familiar to someone, you start disrespecting that person or taking that person cheaply. Right. So that is there. Could not take advantage of the association. Second thing is that Krishna also did not want that to happen. Otherwise, Prabhupada would have got stuck in family life. Right.
And she is also having responsibility of child, but you explained sister took the responsibility of child and you take sannyasi, like that she said. But wife also having same responsibility to take care of the child, right?
But then Prabhupada did not want her to become sannyasi. Prabhupada just wanted her to support in his teaching, which means if he's giving class, she should also come and sit and listen to the class. Or if he's giving class, arranging for program, she can at least serve prasadam to the guests. That much support he wanted. I mean, just imagine Prabhupada in else where we come to know, he says that I used to give class, arrange for the program in the room in the ground floor, and my whole family is sitting up, drinking tea and eating biscuits, and I'm giving a lecture. Now, what is that?
Yeah.
Let's say, forget about interest in bhakti. But let's say your husband or your father is speaking on Bhagavad Gita, and so many people are coming to listen, and you're sitting at home and you don't coming to listen. Even as a normal etiquette, they should have participated. They should have participated, right? So Prabhupada did not get that much encouragement or support also.
Okay.
Then he was like, why am I wasting my time for these people?
Yeah. Okay.
Then let me take sannyas. So he did not want his wife to travel with him all over the world and preach or something like that. But he wanted at least this much, this much cooperation. And which is not wrong in one sense. That's not wrong. In fact, it was all for their benefit only, that if they would have they would have sat down in his class, they would have learned something nice about Krishna. So this is there. And as Prabhupada says, it was all Krishna's arrangement for him to come out of that phase of life and begin a new phase.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, we'll stop here. Yeah, Lalita Prashta Gopinath, last question.
Sorry, Habaji. Yeah. I'm a little confused because when I read Srimad Bhagavatam, some places mention Varna Ashrama. This is not necessary. Just in case we can do devotional service directly to the Krishna. So here we see that the Prabhupada is still taking this how to say Varna how to say all sannyasi essential. So if this still necessary, we follow this how to say Varna Ashrama and then take step from Grihastha to Varna and then to
It is
sannyasi.
necessary if it helps you to become more Krishna conscious. It becomes necessary. If it is not helping you, you are being a good devotee in Grihastha ashram itself, then remain in Grihastha ashram. But then naturally it's going to help you, when you come Vanaprastha. What is the point becoming Vanaprasthi from Grihastha? You give up your responsibility. Now, when you give up your material responsibility, don't you get more time to practice Krishna consciousness?
Yeah.
So it's a step favorable for Krishna consciousness, right? So when Varnashrama is supporting Krishna consciousness, we are ready to accept Varnashrama. When Varnashrama will not support Krishna consciousness, that time you reject Varnashrama. But when it is supporting Krishna consciousness, then why not accept? So for
we
a
accept
devotee,
blessings.
if a devotee is getting a chance to take Vanaprastha and it's going to help in spiritual life, take Vanaprastha.
So how much how to say how much how to say is this relevant with how to say how much how to say devotion or renunciation we can go back to Godhead, maybe percent or if we, because for especially for us, Maharaji,
are you thinking of taking Vanaprastha? No, right?
yeah, because the Prabhupada also have this stage by stage. I mean, for Maharaji is saying such as says that we don't take sannyasis, right? Something like that. So we may just remain in grihastha life until death.
No, you remain in grihastha life, but you live as a sannyasa in grihastha life. Which means what? A man can travel alone anywhere in any part of the world, right? A woman cannot. It doesn't mean that a woman will remain a grihastha since till day, Z, last day. A woman will remain in house, but will live like a sannyasi only. Living like a sannyasi means what? Disinterested in material affairs. Have you not seen old ladies of, past? How would they live? They would just spend time in their own room, right? Throughout the day, they will hardly come out and talk to people. Whole day they're sitting in their room, maybe reading some book, chanting some mantra, that's all. And sometimes people will go and talk to them, ask for some advice or something, and they will stay. And that's how they. So that is as good as being a sannyasi only, Sannyas means you give a material engagements. Have you seen this or not? You must have seen your grandfather, grandmother. How did they spend their last days? In this way. So that's how that is to be done. That anyone has to do, whether you are a male body, female body, right? Okay, we stop here.